So what is the deeper meaning of contraception?
I mean, I think that contraception is definitely a problem. It's a problem because it's a cutting in half of what sexuality is, right? It's thinking that you can only have the pleasure, and so the image of contraception is actually an image of our whole society. I mean, it's an image of everything that is characteristic of who we are in terms of desiring only entertainment, desiring to be, not lacking all kind of participative places. Like we don't have any. There's no participation left. Right? We don't have communities. We don't have groups. We have Netflix. We have games. We have, people talk about video games, but video games are not participative in the same way that a community is participative. It's still a game, and it's still part of this recreational world. And so I think that's what happened. And so you can understand it. So this is the mystery. So, Christ sometimes says things like when Christ says things like scandal must happen, right? And so scandal must happen, but woe to those by whom it happens. And I think that this is a moment where this is it. Like, what's happening is not good. Our world being completely drunk on laughter and entertainment is definitely not a good thing. But it's still, if you look carefully, you'll see that it's probably also preparing. Like, it's preparing for a resurrection. So it's not justifying it, but it nonetheless is. That's why we talk about the double inversion. That's why we talk about the clown turning the world back right side up. It's like, it's not about justifying these things, but it's about seeing that God's going to win in the end, folks. It's just, you can't stop
Right.
that one, right? And so the way that it happens is sometimes surprising, and it's using death against death, and it's using the fragmentation against itself, and it's using this kind of weird decadent world against itself. And I think that contraception is definitely a problem. I don't think Christians should use contraception, at least not artificial contraception. Like, I think that if you're going to, let's say, how can I say this? If you're going to practice a form of asceticism in order to not have children, then I think that's totally fine. Like, I don't see that as a problem. But I don't think that artificial contraception it's just participating in. I mean, it's not gonna. I'm not saying like if you use contraception, you're gonna go to hell or any stupid thing like that. But I'm just saying that there's a pattern in the world, and it's manifesting itself. And so that's one aspect of it. And if we engage with it, then we're part of that pattern.
So are you saying that condoms would be garments of skin?
That's for sure. That's what they are. they're like instead of circumcision, they're like, let's add another layer on top to actually stop it from doing what it's supposed to do. It's like
right. Yeah. And circumcision would be what, the mark of divine sonship, right? Or like a heavenly identity or something like that, right?
Well, I mean, circumcision is a removal of the outer garments. That's what it is. It's a moving into the inner aspect, and so it's revealing the inner aspect. You could say it that way. And so it's actually a form of unveiling, you could call it. But it's an image of obviously moving into the temple. It's an image of the circumcision of the heart that St. Paul talks about ultimately, which is more important. I mean, physical circumcision is a ritual practice which had its purpose in terms of creating a pattern of being, but it has also to lead to something like the circumcision of the heart, which is a better understanding of reality.
Okay, and now
Christians don't get circumcised, and that's also part of one of the reasons why. I mean, some Christians do, but let's say traditionally Christians weren't circumcised, and that's also part of their function as the foreigner who is also converted.
Oh, right. Because the circumcision is tied to Judaism, right?
I keep telling people, like, Christianity is a non-dual religion, and so you have to be able to deal with that. Like, how, if you're non-dual, if you believe that the world resolves itself to non-duality and an infinite God that isn't opposed to his creation, then these things have to resolve themselves. And so the enemy has to be absorbed at some point. There has to be reconciliation for the world to actually find its resolution. So like the sheep has to lay down with the lion,
Okay,
but the foreigner also has to be reintegrated. Cain has to be reintegrated. Esau has to be reintegrated. All of these aspects of reality, all the, Samson has to be integrated. All the weird stuff in scripture, all the like weird patterns, all the strangeness, they have to be integrated. And if you look at the story of Christ, it's all there.
Now, I'm just wondering too, like, so whenever we are talking about, say, like procreation, sometimes it's referred to as seed, right? So a man's seed or a semen, like it being inhibited, like what are the deeper things happening whenever, say, like we're a contracepted people?
But I mean, there's just going to be lack of fruit. Like in practical terms, you're going to start to stop existing. It's very simple. It's not a very complicated thing.
Not a conundrum.
It's not a conundrum. If the seed doesn't get to its destination, then you're going to exist less, and then you're going to cease to exist. And then you're going to be invaded by the outside. It's pretty simple. I mean, it's very simple. This is the harder part that people don't understand, is that you're always giving seed to something. It's not like it doesn't matter, right? And so your seed is given to something. So if it's not given to your wife, then it ends up being given to the scapegoat, or given to, I don't know how else to say it, given to the wild aspect. And so it's like a culture of contraception is also a culture of pornography. Those two things are the same, because you're giving your seed to a succubus, like you're giving your seed to this phantasm, to a feminine phantasm. And so it's like those two things are manifestations of the same problem. And so it's not surprising. Like the way that it's happened in our world is not surprising. Like I keep telling people, if you don't believe in incubi and succubi, you're an idiot, because they're everywhere. Like they're everywhere right now, and just because you see an image of a woman, like you see an image of a woman on a screen, is that you're not seeing that woman. Obviously, you have no connection with that person. It's an idol. It's an idol embodying a feminine phantasm. And so it's like pornography is just basically engaging with incubi and succubi. That's what it is. And so that's what happens in a world where the idea of giving seed isn't taken seriously. The analogy plays itself out, because it's also about attention. It's not just about the sexual act. It also ends up being about attention.
Like the seed of your ideas?
That's right. Your mind, your attention, your mental attention. What is it that I saw? There was a tweet that was going viral, and it was some guy saying, they were talking about pornography and how dangerous it is. And then the guy says, like, well, if you didn't have pornography, what would you think about all day? And I was like, there you go, dude. He's basically, that's what he's saying. It's like your life can be wasted away if you give your attention to these phantasms. And it's not, you actually will be less productive in life. You will have less ideas. You will be less engaged in your community. All of this is going to happen. So it's not just about the sexual act with your spouse. It's
robbing your productivity.
Yes, it is. It actually is.
No, that just makes me think of, okay, so in the productivity genre, because like channels like Better Ideas, or like what's his name? Anyway, so huge genre, right? Maybe it's like a subsection of the business genre of YouTube videos or articles or books. A big part of that right now that's popular is called NoFap. Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's because they realize that without even knowing, they realize that, this stuff that we talk about, us religious people, we're talking about reality. Not just talking about like arbitrary moral things. We're actually talking about reality. And you're going to come to the same conclusion that we are, but you're going to have to get through hell to get there. You're going to go through hell, and now you're going to realize that there's a reason why these things were talked about the way they were in the past. Mm-hmm. And so exactly, if people are noticing that if you give in to masturbation, that it's going to take away your attention. It's going to make you a loser. It's going to make you like someone who has no drive, has no direction, is just and so it's real. It's not like I said, it's not but contraception is part of that too. It actually is. Because the thing about having children is that it is transformative. It's the kind of transformation that you wouldn't want if you're looking just for pleasure, mm-hmm. and that you can only experience once it happens, right? I can tell you that the experience of like holding your child is something that will like bring you in a transcendent moment that will completely transform you, but you mm-hmm. can't know that. You have to experience it, because there's a lot of pain which goes with it. There's a lot of suffering which comes with having children, but mm-hmm. the joys are beyond description.
Transcendent joy through suffering, through sacrifice. Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so the idea of like the single guy, who's like in his 40s and isn't married and doesn't have children and who doesn't have any direction, it's all connected together. Mm-hmm. But not just that, like the couple that decides not to have children and then like get a dog and then 2 dogs, and then their whole life is about their dogs. And then they, it's like their dogs are and so it's like, and it becomes a caricature and a parody of reality, and their whole life becomes a joke. And what I'm saying is true.
I'm holding my tongue right now. I have several people that just came to mind.
So it's like this stuff is actually talking about reality, and so people can knock at the idea that contraception is a problem. They can knock at it, but look at the fruits. It's like you could in the 60s you could say that, but now I don't know, man. Look at the fruits.
Well, okay, so like take the NoFap, right, which is basically like don't masturbate, right? Don't spill your seed, because what these guys realized is that they want to start a business. They want to be like Elon Musk. They want to write books and come up with ideas and be an entrepreneur. And so in order to produce, they can't spill their seed because that's wasting away their productivity and their energy. Yeah.
It's wasting their attention, and it's wasting their, like you said, their energy. Everything's going there. So they have to hold their seed and direct it towards, and they end up acting in a ritual manner where they will be monks, like not really, but they'll practice a form of asceticism, because they realize that you can direct by doing that. You can focus your energy and your attention on a higher goal, let's say. Mm-hmm. So, but it's utilitarian, which is fine. But if you follow the logic to its end, you get to an actual monk who is reaching towards God and is holding his seed completely in order to have this ecstatic union with the divine and be transformed and being deified. It's like that's the finality of the NoFap thing. They can't ride their logic to the end. They just think of getting their million or whatever, getting their Lamborghini, mm-hmm. which mm-hmm. whatever, but it's still showing you that pattern that, like you said, this ascesis, ascetic practice there's a reason why we direct our seed, let's say.